The superpower that every citizen has is the ability to control where they spend their time, money, and attention. By focusing these on supporting local businesses, you are having a profound impact on your friends, your family, and your local community. So if you want to change the world, you can start with buying local.
Welcome back, everyone, to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson from 5 Towers Media, Glens Falls Today, and Saratoga Business Report. I am joined today by David Byrne, which I said that correctly.
That's right.
Yeah, excellent. David is joining us. He owns a company called Renua, and he's going to tell us all about what Renua is and does. And I believe you're also a veteran as well.
Yes.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. What branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Army.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long were you in the Army for?
I was active for 5 years, so
Yeah.
I was commissioned in 2001. So that happened in June, and then 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow.
And I was in New York at the time, still, because I went to college in New York, and then we got to my first unit and ramped up and got shipped out to Kuwait.
Wow.
And was over there for about a year, and then came home for a year, and then went back to Iraq for a year. And then at that point, I had kind of completed my initial obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And for family reasons, I decided to get out.
Yeah.
My son didn't know who I was at the time.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to be an effective dad. And so he was 2 years old, and my wife and I wanted to have a large family. I guess, relatively speaking, we have a large family with 4 kids, and that was important. So we kind of pivoted at that point.
Yeah. That's a great choice to make.
Thank you.
And probably not an easy choice to make, I imagine, either.
No, it was very conflicting, and to this day, honestly, I still think about that decision and wish that I could have done more.
Yeah. What a crazy thing to be newly in the military, in the Army, and then something like 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
What does that feel like when you're like, obviously, you're going to get deployed at that point? I mean, that's, like.
Oh, yeah. I had an injury in college, so I was held over after graduation from college for a couple months while I did physical therapy and got up to speed. And so, as I mentioned, we were still in New York at the time, and then my wife was working down in New York City that day, and it was hard for me to comprehend the whole thing. I mean, obviously my wife was fine, and we were grateful for that, but I ended up going down there and trying to help out in any way I could, and really trying to wrap my brain around the magnitude of what happened.
Yeah.
So I put on my military uniform and went down there just to see if I could help in any way. And, you're walking down these streets, and they have these morgues that they've identified and kind of centrally located. And they had written in this paint that was like dripping. It says like morgue. And
oh my God.
In dripping paint that had dried on these, like the sides of these buildings. And it just, it looked like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
And,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. The rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for your service and commitments. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Renua.
Sure.
What is Renua?
So Renua is a clean energy company. And I actually can explain how we got here by going back a few years when I got out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
I had a sense that there were kind of competing interests that also drove some of the decisions to invade Iraq in the first place, and some of that related to energy and et cetera. So
yeah.
I didn't understand all the ins and outs of the geopolitics and the military-industrial complex, et cetera, but I just knew that I wanted to do something to make my country stronger.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to do something to make us less dependent on the Middle East, because based on my experience in Iraq and Kuwait, I felt like we should depend on them for as little as possible. I felt pretty strongly about that.
Yeah.
And so I decided, well, I'm going to get into some clean energy sector, because I believe in renewables. The sun is there, let's harness the power of it. But then I wanted to, obviously also be in energy for energy independence purposes, which I felt was critical to national security. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to continue to try to make a difference in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got involved just working for a small company. At the time, I lived down in Red Hook, 2 hours south of here.
Okay.
And I started working for a company called Hudson Valley Clean Energy. I was an installer, and I had a couple kids at the time and one on the way, and I got this job. I had to go in there 5 times in person to get this job.
Oh, no kidding.
You know, they were trying to figure out what marketable skills I had coming, you know, out of a combat environment and having served. And the bottom line is I think it was tough for people to understand what skills could transfer to the small business environment. And anyway, long story short, I got a job working as an installer, installing panels on residential rooftops. And, you know, so it's a summer day like today.
Oh,
you know, maybe it's 85 degrees, and you're like, well, I'm a young fit guy. You know, I'm just got back from doing tough stuff over in Iraq, and I can take on the world. And then you're humping these panels up and down a ladder, you know, all day, and then you're up on the rooftop, and the heat is just radiating off. Oh, and it's, you know, Iraq could get hot, right? It'd be like 120 degrees sometimes. But it was kind of a dry heat, and it was just a different experience on the rooftop. And I admire anyone who does that for a living.
Oh my God!
And I was trying to support a family, you know, taking home, you know, after taxes and all that good stuff, you know, probably $13 an hour. Yeah. And you know, my wife was trying to buy, you know, healthy organic food, you know, for the young kids. That it was like we didn't always balance our monthly budget. But that's how I started in the solar industry. Okay. And then I was there for 5 years, and then I took a job working for a solar manufacturer, LG Electronics. And I was traveling all over the country, you know, working for LG. I loved my job. I was really supplying panels to large scale developers or construction firms who were building very large scale projects. And it was a dream job. You know, I'd take our customers over to Korea sometimes to see our factory, and you know, I had a corporate card, so that was awesome. Nice. Now it's a little different, you know, when it's my own company. Anyway, so I worked there 5 years.
So you still have a corporate card anyway,
yeah,
right?
I do. But it's you know, back then we had big customers buying. You know, you'd have some customers buying, you know, maybe 30, 40, 50, $60 million worth of product a year. So if you dropped $1,000 on a nice steak dinner,
that was okay.
Out at a trade show in Vegas, you know, it was okay. Yeah. If I tried to do something like that now, my office manager, who's my wife, would have some questions for me.
yes, I bet. Not a happy response.
Yeah, but that's how I got into it. We do a couple different things at Renua. So we have one side of the business, which is a consulting side where we offer development services for large-scale solar projects. And, you know, when I was working for LG for those 5 years, I met a lot of developers. I met a lot of large construction firms. It seemed like there was a need. There was kind of a gap there in the services, or at least in the supply of some of the services they needed. So we started doing, you know, design consulting services for large scale solar. We've worked on about 40 large scale projects here in New York. Where we appear before the town boards and present, you know, our civil design and the environmental studies and, you know, all the due diligence we've done on the project to try to get it to notice to proceed so it can move forward. Yeah. And then the other side of the business, that's the solar, you know, development services. The other side is doing EV charging station installation. So we have electricians in-house and, you know, a crew, and we're hiring actually a couple people here in the next couple of weeks to expand our capacity. And we started off doing a lot of, I call it light commercial work. So we were working on like small, like motels, hotels in the area. You know, we did Landmark Motor Inn down in South Glens Falls, a bunch up here in Lake George.
I was going to say, I saw a few on your website.
Colonel Williams, and there's several others that we did in in Lake George and throughout the Hudson Valley, actually. And now we're kind of evolving, and we're doing larger projects, sometimes for car dealerships or other kind of larger commercial industrial clients who need like a larger bank of EV chargers for whatever.
I mean, we're going to start to see them like we see gas pumps now, I would imagine, right? With the number of EVs on the road every day is increasing.
Yep.
With what I don't want to say the legislation that's been passed as far as, increasing the number of not just, what manufacturers are producing, right? Like, what is it 2035?
Yeah, that's what they're shooting for here in New York State. I think it's certainly an aggressive goal.
Sure.
And we really enjoy just helping customers who need these. And people have different reasons for installing these. But, if you're a car dealer and, corporate is telling you, hey, you need this infrastructure built out before you can get EV product, and they see it as a new revenue stream and, really important to meet the demand in the area, then we feel like we're really making a difference that way too. And
so question about the EV charging stations as someone who does not own an electric vehicle.
Sure.
Right. How does it work? Like, does it work like a gas pump? Where you go, you slide your card and it charges your car and charges you money. Is that, is that?
Yeah, you can typically use a credit card. In some cases, you have to have an app for that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's still, I think, a point of frustration in the market is a lot of these software providers require you to download their app, and then there's various providers, and depending upon which one is in play in that given location,
interesting,
you have to install that app. But a lot of them do also allow for credit card transactions, so there's different types of chargers. Also, there's like what we call level 2 chargers, which are just they're more cost effective, but they're also not as robust. They don't have as high capacity.
Okay.
They don't charge as quickly.
Right. That's to say they don't transfer.
More time. So, for a lot of these local spots that we did, up in Lake George, Doré Motel, for example, was a small one we did. We just did level 2 chargers because they might have folks who are looking to stay in Lake George and they have an EV and they're driving up from, I don't know, New Jersey.
Sure.
and they're saying, well, let's stay somewhere that has an EV charging station.
Yep.
And then, for a lot of these, smaller outfits, they could avoid losing revenue because they wouldn't lose to some of their competitors who already installed these on their premises. And so, for example, Doré Motel, they just have, a couple ports, level 2 chargers, but if they have clients staying, guests staying overnight, then they can charge overnight.
Yeah, they plug in and charge while they sleep.
You can get about 30 miles per hour of charge. So, if they're charging for 8 hours, they're going to get, a decent charge, 240
full
miles.
charge or whatever, yeah. And now I believe I read something too about just recently that the industry has decided to use the Tesla type charger.
Yep.
Industry standard. That's now the industry standard. Is that correct?
Yeah. All the momentum is headed that way.
Yeah.
So there's a testing and regulatory agency which previously had approved the older charger, or the original charger, let's call it, connector type. And then Chevy and Ford came online and said, hey, we're going to support Tesla's connector. And that's been kind of, I guess the tail is kind of wagging the dog in the industry, or however you want to describe it, but they're kind of driving that switchover. So now that testing and regulatory agency has come forward and said, well, we support Tesla's connector as well.
Interesting. That's going to be good for Tesla. If everyone's using your charger, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they've got that patented.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Should buy that stock.
if you haven't already, yeah.
Yeah, right. Doesn't everybody own a little Tesla stock at this point?
Yeah. They've been around.
They've been around, yeah. So, and I'm sorry, how long did you say you've been doing this?
5 years.
5 years now?
Yeah. Yep.
So you've just passed that magic number of pass-fail for businesses, right?
I don't know that there's anything magical about where we're at, but I can say that we are growing, and my goal is never to be like the biggest or the biggest, baddest company in New York, but we want to do the best work. We want to have the best reputation. So that's something we're working towards, and we're kind of organically growing as part of that process. We're hiring a couple people. It's going to put us right around 20 employees. And,
that's amazing.
And I feel like that's a good place to be in. And, for me, it feels really good to be able to provide opportunities that allow people to, put food on the table. Or,
absolutely.
Or in the fridge,
Yeah.
because that's important.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that too, because we just recorded an episode of Blue Collar Startup right before this, and we were talking about that very same thing. And also, I give a shout out to Jason McGregor at Minnick McGregor down in Saratoga. I was having a conversation one day with him. I think we might have been doing a video shoot, and he was just making the same sentiment, right? About hey, this business provides for 8 families, for the people that work here, and that's what's important to us, and I just think it's amazing when business owners start to look at their employees. And the people, and in like what we say in our company is technically, they're employees, but we work with them. Like we work together, they're not, we don't own them. They're helping us, we're helping them, and the business provides for these people. And it's just a cool thing to be a part of. Yeah.
It can really become a platform that supports a lot of dreams.
Yeah.
I work with, friends of mine. I mean, I've hired friends, and I know that's a little taboo
sometimes,
and it can go sideways very quickly.
Yeah.
But, in my case, it's actually worked out really well, and I'm grateful to work with people I respect and I like, and we don't hang out all the time. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes some of us socially might get together, but we're all busy. I mean,
right.
I have 4 kids that are doing ski racing and travel lacrosse and, all this good stuff. So, between the business and the family, there's not a lot left in terms of budgeting time. But I guess my point is that for me, it's been really rewarding to be able to work with some friends and then, hiring new employees and really just trying to make it a win-win as much as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did you end up here, by the way?
Up here? Oh, okay. Good question. So I came back from Iraq. We wanted to move back to my hometown to raise a family, which was Red Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a few years later, my daughter ended up really getting into ski racing. She watched this movie about Lindsey Vonn. Okay. I think she was 7 years old. So it was like 7 years after moving back to Red Hook area. And she's like, oh, I want to be like her. I want to be an Olympic ski racer. And we were skiing, we were just kind of learning. I never skied growing up. We didn't have a pot to piss in. So it wasn't really in the budget.
Skiing's not cheap.
No. Yeah. And so I was learning with the kids. Initially we couldn't afford like goggles and like, all the gear.
Yeah.
We just kind of piecemealed together what we could. And then, anyway, I was just a dad trying to support a dream, and one thing led to another. And she actually became like really into ski racing. Like it wasn't just like this vision anymore. She was like really trying to go after it and working hard. And we couldn't make that happen just skiing twice a week, at Butternut where we were driving to. It was an hour away from my home.
Mm-hmm.
Working all week, and then I'd spend all Saturday and all Sunday at Butternut in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, an hour away from Red Hook. And so part of the decision point was finding a place closer to mountains.
Okay.
And so we're one exit south of West Mountain, which has a great, ski racing program.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And so my kids are there 6 days a week, 3 of my kids. And also we were renting when I came back to the area.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had kind of like a mother-daughter-in-law setup, and we were renting and supporting her, but we didn't have our own nest egg investment, and we wanted to buy our own home. And so, I probably saved like $400,000 by buying up here in this area.
No kidding.
We bought in the town of Moreau, South Glens Falls School District. And, this is before COVID, but we got a nice 5-bedroom, for with 1 acre for under $300K.
Yeah.
Whereas in Red Hook, it would have been probably $700 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So that mattered too.
That mattered, yeah. So all the stars aligned, and you ended up in South Glens Falls.
Yeah, and I really like the land here. The mountains. During COVID, we used to go out to the Hudson River actually, which we could walk to, 10 minutes from our house, and we just go swimming in this inlet in the river, and no one was around. And
yeah, that's cool.
Just being able to access the high peaks, or
it's a beautiful area that we live in up here, and it's like I say all the time, like this is where people come to vacation.
Yes, exactly.
It's a beautiful area. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
The sunsets and sunrises are pretty in any direction. It's or from wherever you are looking at them.
Yeah.
But
I don't have a boat, but I have some friends with boats and on Lake George.
That's the key to life. A friend of mine years ago, I had a boat, and I had said to one of my buddies, and I was like, "Hey, when are you going to get a boat?" And he's like, "Buddy, I don't need to get a boat. You own a boat." He's like, "Why would I ever buy one if you own a boat?"
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. Like that's the move, because with the two best days of a boat owner, right? The day you buy it and the day you sell it. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't have that set of problems." He's like, "I just show up when I want to use it and go out with you, and it's great.
Yeah.
No repair bills, none of that stuff."
All we do is win.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All we do is win.
Yeah.
Bogey's Pub and Grill at Bay Meadows Golf Club. Not just for hungry golfers, they have a little something for everyone. The pub side offers a nice friendly atmosphere, televisions to watch your favorite sporting events, booths for a nice lunch, a pool table, PGA golf simulators with over 80 courses. They also have a formal dining room if you're looking for a more traditional dining space.
So you move to the area,
Mm-hmm.
you build this business, which I think is amazing. 20 employees. So you guys, that's a healthy sized business.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the biggest challenges that you see on a regular basis with your company right now?
Yeah, great question. And I just want to be accurate because I do have a few of those 20 who are part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, that's fair.
So we're very family oriented. We try to support, families and employees in their roles as moms and dads.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it works out just for someone to work part-time with us. I would say probably our biggest challenge is finding, motivated electricians who want to come on board because they're in very high demand. And, obviously there's been a labor shortage for quite a while.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're competing with much larger companies. So we like to connect with folks who are kind of like-minded, who want to be in the small business world. It can be quite a different experience in many cases than being in a corporate environment. And we do our best. And, every year we're trying to improve our offerings to employees. And so I would say definitely, finding, really solid manpower is our biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Also I would say on the technical side for our development services, for example, if you're hiring engineers, they're also, not the easiest to come by either.
Yeah. Which is interesting in this, because I don't know if you knew this or not, and this is an old statistic. It's probably maybe 10 years old, but 10 years ago, and it might still be, is that Glens Falls had the highest number of engineers per capita than like any other place in the country. Believe it or not. It was really this crazy thing just because of all the different types of businesses that are locally. I mean, we have a high demand for all types of engineers in this area. It's a really interesting thing, but compared to other parts of the country.
Maybe I'm not looking hard enough.
Well, it really does come down to too, though, that there's just so much industry here that requires engineers.
Sure.
Which is, and it really is. I mean, if you look around, Glens Falls, Queensbury, getting down to Saratoga, there is just so many organizations that are engineering type firms, whether it's environmental or mechanical. I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot of industry in this part of the country. But,
cool.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Yeah. Learn something every day.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Of course, that could be completely off now because, again, that's an old statistic, but it used to be.
Yeah. One other challenge for us, Mike, has been just the sales side, business development, particularly on the EV charging station side of the house, because, a lot of people, they may want EV charging stations, but they may not feel that they need them, right? So if you're a business and you have, a couple hundred employees in a decent sized parking lot, or you're a larger hotel, our job is to help people see the merits of that business case of installing these. And there are a lot of tax incentives as well, federal and state tax credits, et cetera. So it's our job to kind of help them understand how it can benefit their business. But the point is, we don't get a lot of inbound calls.
Right.
There's certain companies, I was talking with a friend of mine who's a residential electrician, and they're doing pretty well. They're locally based here, and they'll get 30 to 40 calls a day. Actually, sometimes more than that, like maybe 50 calls, and then like 20 of those are solid leads that they convert to bookings. Okay, and so
those are good numbers.
Yeah, those are good numbers, and he has a steady incoming stream of leads, and we don't have that. We don't.
Gotcha.
We'll have that once a month. Someone will call us and say, "Hey, I'd like to get a quote from you because we saw you on the National Grid website or whatever as a qualified, approved installer."
Yeah.
But all of our business development is cold calling, right? And that takes a special breed of salesperson.
Yes, it
to
does.
do that, and
yes,
so
it
that's a challenge.
Do you do those calls, Dave?
I used to when we started doing EV charging about 2.5 years ago. I was doing that, and I actually miss those days. To be honest with you, I really feel energized. Everyone's different.
It must be the military background. You got, you're just a glutton for punishment, right? You're like,
I've been accused of that before, but yeah, people react differently to that. But for me, it's energizing to get out there and just try to connect with people and see where it all goes. But these days I'm too busy kind of trying to lead the company. So we have a couple guys who do a really good job of that. But the point is, like, I hired a veteran, out in Syracuse, and he had the resume, and he was polished, and it seemed like he really had the drive. And he lasted about 5 weeks, and then he quit, and that's heartbreaking for me because whenever I can hire a veteran, it's a good day. And when I can give them an opportunity to provide for their family, that's even better, And so anyway, the point is, like, not everyone is built so that they can thrive in that type of cold calling environment where you're physically showing up and trying to connect with people in person.
It's hard. It's hard. I'll tell you, I'll share a funny personal story. So we're talking, I don't even know how many years ago now. I think it was like probably 2010, 2011. I worked for a franchise out of Albany that did sales training, right? And I used to teach cold calling clinics, and I would do a lot of cold calling. But at one point in time, it got me so stressed out that I started having like these weird heart palpitations. To the point I thought something was wrong with me. Went to the doctor. They were putting a heart monitor on me, all this stuff. And then I realized because I went a few days without cold calling and my heart got better.
Oh, wow.
And so it turned out like I literally gave myself so much stress from cold calling and the expectation I was placing on it that I was having this weird heart arrhythmia thing. So cold calling's hard. It is stressful. It's not for everybody. I got over that, obviously. And I did become very good at networking. I love networking, right? So did we get connected through the chamber?
Are you actually, yes, I am a chamber member, and I did an interview with one of the reporters here.
With Kate?
Kate, yep. Haggerty.
Yeah.
Haggerty,
Kate's great.
Yeah, so she put us in touch.
Very nice. Okay, so but I love the chamber. The networking events, like it's been huge. I don't know if you're going to the I think the Common Roots Mixers this evening.
Oh,
if you're listening to this, the Common Roots Mixers already happened because this won't go out till next week. But but for us in real life, tonight at 5 o'clock.
That's awesome. That's probably something I need to improve upon. Is going to more chamber events. I've been a member for I think 3 years now. I went to the Christmas holiday event this past season, and that was awesome. And I haven't been to too many other events. So.
I tell people all the time. I've always been a huge advocate of the chambers of commerce in any town. I think it's for small business especially. It's an excellent way to get connected with other people in the business community, and really, I've made my career off of networking. And in sales anyway. And but I can tell you that this Adirondack Chamber, the team that they have right now, that Trisha is leading, Trisha, Amanda, now Ava, Carol Ann, I mean, they're amazing. The events are amazing. Very accessible. It's just, I can't say enough good things about the chamber, actually. So, but what I do tell everyone is much of the power of the chamber for a small business person comes from those events. And if you're not hitting those events, you're just not getting even half of what you could be out of the chamber. I mean, those events are huge. Yeah. And so you should go.
I will.
Today's, it's in your backyard basically today, right? South Glens Falls, Common Roots, great beer, great people.
Yeah. It sounds good. And I will make more events.
No pressure.
I will make more events.
No pressure. But I'll be looking for it.
If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it.
That's good.
So I'm intentionally not committing to this because I don't know if I'm going to do it
I like
tonight.
It. But, I like it.
I will make more events.
Yeah. No, they're great. So, just a little shout out for the chamber there. But
awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So business development, I think that's a struggle. We've been trying to find, we've been trying to successfully hire a salesperson for a year.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And just trying to find the right person because it's a stressful environment. Account managers we can find, right? And anyone can do account management as long as you like talking to people, right? And you want to help people, you can be a great account manager. But the hunting part of business development is the hard part. Yes. And that's what we're trying to find a hunter. Yeah. And it's challenging. Yeah. It's challenging.
And what's interesting is sometimes you may not know it.
Right.
You may have that streak in you that allows you to succeed in sales, but you don't know it. And I would say that when I was getting out of the military and then, I started working as an installer in solar, and then I got a job doing residential sales for that same company. They gave me a shot. I had to make more money. I was supporting a family. We were a single income household, and I did sales for about 4.5 months until I landed my first deal. Yeah. And I'm so grateful to the owners of that company, particularly my boss who headed up the sales and marketing teams, because he didn't fire me.
Right.
And if he would have fired me, 3 months into it, like, oh, you haven't sold anything, like pack up your bags and get out of here. Maybe I wouldn't have had a career in the solar industry. Yeah. And so I'm forever grateful for that. And I try to take that experience and practice patience, when we hire someone in sales. And, we hired a gentleman recently, he's been at it for a few months. And I said, I don't really care if you're super motivated in week one, and, if you are, that's great, coming hot out of the gates here. But what I care about is, the third or fourth or fifth month into this, if you still get up every morning and you're feeling hungry and you're willing to get out there and go hunting and you enjoy what you do, and you feel energized by it. And, sure enough, it's tough. And he had to go for, several weeks without really landing any deals. And he was getting nervous. And I said, no, I believe in you. I know you can do this. You've done it in other markets, in other sectors, other industries. I know you can do this, but you got to believe in yourself because I believe in you. And then he landed some big deals. And, there's always ups and downs, and then you get a customer who cancels a couple big deals, and that's tough. And that happened in this case, but I just kept encouraging him. And that's really because of my experience when I started off in sales and they believed in me. I didn't know myself whether I could do sales. It just sounded fun. Sure. But I was coming from an environment in which I was so detail oriented, in a combat environment, where the devil's in the details and you have to really have everything lined up and squared away. But then once I sold my first, residential solar system, I was like hooked, and that's it, right? And my confidence just it just skyrocketed. And then, and customers or prospects, they can sense that,
Listen, I'll tell you, to your point, sales is hard, right? Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize how hard it is. Yeah. And you like you said, you go months without closing a deal. Yeah. But man, when you close that deal, how good does that feel, right? And then it's the ups and downs. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people. It's just the ups and downs and being able to weather the valleys of no sales. But holy moly, I can. There's nothing. I actually just said to one of the guys in my office today or yesterday. I was like, how much do we like to close deals? Yeah. He's like, there is nothing better than closing a deal, man. Yeah. When you're hunting and you're getting a win, what's better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there'll be days like if we land a big deal and we needed it, we really, really needed it, and I'll be in my office. I'll just start yelling.
Yeah, that's great.
And I still work above my garage a lot of the time. So my kids will come upstairs. They'll be like, "What's going on, Dad?" Nothing.
Close the deal.
Yeah, and I'll get down on my hands and knees sometimes and give thanks. When we close a big deal. And it's the ups and downs. And that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. It really does. And listen, that's why we want to have people like yourself on this show and talk about this stuff is because for small business guys and girls, like small business people, it just means so much, right? When you get a deal, when you close a deal, and that's one of the power, or that is the power of buying local, right? Because you really are supporting your friends, your neighbors, and it's such a profound impact when someone buys something from you versus buying it from a huge corporation or a box store or whatever it is. No one's getting down on their hands and knees and thanking God that they made that deal, right? You know what I mean? So it's I appreciate you sharing that. That's great. Yeah,
and I got to give a shout out.
Yes, please do.
To Whiteman Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Right here in Glens Falls.
Yeah.
And we had done a couple bigger deals, but a lot they were primarily down in the Hudson Valley, and based on connections we had there. They gave us a shot doing this install for them, on a pretty big project. A lot went into it. It was quite involved, and just grateful to Amy Whiteman Brown and her team for giving us that shot as a local company.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I bought my last 3 cars from those guys, so
amen.
They're great people over there. Go see Nate.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yep.
That's very cool. So if well, actually, I got one more question.
Sure.
So, and I know we're kind of running over a little bit, but from a business standpoint, right? Like you talked about, you don't have a lot of inbound stuff coming in. And so if I'm a business owner and I've got a parking lot and a good amount of cars are coming in my parking lot every day, or maybe I want to give people a reason to come into my parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Do I make money on those EV chargers?
You definitely will, and you got to take a midterm view of it.
Okay.
And the reason is because, there's an upfront incentive if you make it publicly accessible. There's a federal tax credit, there's a state tax credit, and there's depreciation savings. Okay. Okay, but sometimes it takes a couple years to fully depreciate the asset. Okay. If you're you can use a 5-year makers, I guess. Depreciation schedule. And there is the upfront investment, but you get a lot of that back. Okay. And then the point is, when you own that asset and you're operating it, you generate revenue every time someone uses that. Right. Because you own it. And so there's all sorts of fancy structures and deals. You can have third-party ownership or lease deals or whatever, kind of like ATM structures. But I get particularly excited when people want to own and operate it themselves, because I think the usage, the revenue stream will continue to increase over time, and they get all these other tax incentives as well. Whereas if they're doing a lease deal or third party deal, the third party captures those incentives. Okay. Yeah. All right. And that was my question. I was like, you're talking about people don't necessarily aren't calling in, because they want to put these pumps in. But I was just like, well, I mean, if they can make money doing it, why wouldn't they? Not only if maybe making money, but maybe it's a draw to bring people to your business because you have those chargers, right? Like gas is at a convenience store, right? That's why they have the gas, is to get you there and then get you inside and grab a cup of coffee, right? So exactly. Any big deal with Stewart's coming down anytime soon? No, they already did some deals, I think, with New York State, but do they have EV chargers at some? They do at some, yeah. But we landed our first New York State deal, which we're pretty excited about. Yeah, and we've been a veteran-owned small business. It's called SDVOB. We're certified by New York State and the federal government as such, and we haven't really landed any business in New York State, over the past 5 years. So for me, this has been a significant development for us as a team. We just it's not all finalized yet because they have to vet, all our credentials, et cetera. Sure. But we're what's called the lowest apparent bidder. And so, we'll see where all that goes. But I'm optimistic it's going to move forward. And, for me, it's meaningful because if it moves forward, we'll be installing these at, DMNA, which is Department of Military and Naval Affairs. So basically National Guard armories here on the eastern side of the state. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it all works out.
Yes.
Comes through. Right?
We'll see. I'm excited, a little nervous at the same time because when you're the lowest parent bidder,
right.
You're like, okay, we gotta make sure we're operating efficiently.
That's
here.
right.
So.
All I's are dotted, all T's are crossed, and things are moving on time.
Yeah.
That's great. So, David, if people want to find Renua, where do they find you guys?
Our website probably has the most information available. It's renuaenergy.com. I'll spell that phonetically. It's Romeo, Echo, November, Uniform, Alpha. So renuaenergy.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. My name's Dave Byrne. Last name spelled Bravo, Yankee, Romeo, November, Echo.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dave, thanks for coming in today and spending some time with us. Really appreciate it. Thanks for employing 20 people in the community and being a part of things. And again, thanks for your service. Appreciate that as well. And we'll have to get you on again sometime and tell us about how that project's working out, right?
We might take a full hour for that
That's
one.
it. All right. Sounds good.
If you catch me on the right day. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
My promise to you is I will attempt to make it to more chamber events.
Yes, you hear that, Tricia and Amanda and Ava and Caroline, everybody. He's making a tentative commitment.
If I don't have a travel lacrosse commitment for my kids or a ski racing commitment or
That's awesome.
something else going on. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man.
All right, thank you.
Thanks everybody for listening. Join us next time. We've got some great people coming on the show, just like Dave. And keep listening and keep supporting your local businesses. Thanks, everybody.
Surround Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in Queensbury, New York, has been offering services including installation and repair to our community for over 25 years. Their professionally trained plumbers and HVAC technicians are capable of completing any job from start to finish with a promise to deliver unmatched customer service in the process.
The superpower that every citizen has is the ability to control where they spend their time, money, and attention. By focusing these on supporting local businesses, you are having a profound impact on your friends, your family, and your local community. So if you want to change the world, you can start with buying local.